I'm on record as saying batteries are one of the most boring purchases you can make as a filmmaker or indeed as a human being. However, batteries are also essential, and very little would be able to be done these days with the kind of equipment that we use without some kind of reliable battery solution. It is certainly not the case now that we are tethered to mains power for our cameras, and if we don't have a decent solution for how we're going to power the cameras and the accessories that we're using, then everything grinds to a halt and our days just become unworkable. And with that rousing introduction out of the way, NEEWER have sent through a couple of their new vmount batteries for me to try out, and I have actually been using these for a couple of months now on various different shoots, and I can give you some of my honest opinions about them. Now, I think my threshold for whether a battery is good or not is relatively low, but also relatively high in a kind of intuitive but weird way. If it works, then it's great. If it continues to work for years, then it's excellent. Now, the problem that we have with a review of a battery like this is that there's no way that anyone's going to do the review over the course of the lifetime of the battery to see how long it actually does last. So we can only give you an opinion based on the usage that I have put it through and my general opinion of how the build quality and the features and functions of the battery feel based on all of that, the productions that I've been working on. So I've got here one of the newer PS099E batteries. They are 99 watt hours. I'm going to open this one up. Now, I have actually been using both on productions, but this one I've kept in a little bit more pristine condition, and I've left the plastic on so that when I came to the review, I could whip it off. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take it out there, and we'll offer it up, and then we're going to peel off this plastic. There we go. And that can come off as well. Leave a little bit of residue, but that'll be just fine. So along with the battery, we have this DTAP to DTAP extender cable, and that is just going to allow you to reposition the DTAP port essentially. It's nothing that's going to set the world on fire, but it's nice that it's included, and sometimes the way you're mounting this on a rig, you're going to want to be able to reposition. So yeah, anytime we get something like that included, it's a bonus. It's one of those items which really I kind of loathe buying, because there are so many little extra accessories that you need to make your rig perfect, whether it's an extra little bit of cable management or a special monitor mount or a different top handle or whatever it is, that they soon stack up, and those extra 12 to 30 pound purchases can add up to hundreds of pounds really to the price of your camera rig. So every time we get something like that included, I am all for it. There's a little bit of literature here, you know, you kind of question what kind of literature there's going to be about the battery, but it's just generally a little bit of information, safety warnings, and also the conventions with their DC ports and what you should be doing with that. Let's stick that underneath because that's the first time I've ever looked at it. Now on the top just there, we have a couple of DC ports. We have an 8 volt and a 12 volt output on those. And then if we move around to this side, we're going to see that there's a couple of USB ports. There is a USB-A port and a USB-C port just there. Now, the USB-C port actually is capable of power delivery, so you can use it for a number of different accessories that are going to require a little bit more power. In fact, I have actually been using that port to power various LED lights that I've got, and it does a great job. You can also, of course, use that to charge the battery, which is really nice. Finally, on this side, we have a single DTAP port as well. Now, obviously, this being a vmount connector, you do have the vmount just there and the various pins that will connect to your camera if your camera does have a vmount connector, or your light or whatever it is on there as well. So there are lots of ways of getting power out of this particular battery brick. Now, that is not unique. There are lots and lots of batteries that are on the market now that offer a lot of options for how you can actually get power out and into your different accessories. The form factor of the battery itself is also pretty familiar. It is a more compact style of battery. I do remember when a 99 watt hour battery was maybe double the size of this and really quite cumbersome, I guess, on the types of camera body that we tend to be using now. This is a much more compact form factor, and it offers much more in terms of inputs and outputs. Those older batteries that I was using, 10, 15 years ago, those only offered often a single D-tap out. Additionally, we're in a position now with USB-C fast charging where actually a lot of the battery powered devices that we're using will accept that as a method to charge, and the NEEWER is no different. That is a massive positive because when you look at vmount chargers, they can be incredibly expensive. We're talking hundreds, if not thousands of pounds for a 2 or a 4 bay charger. Now, they do offer very fast charging, and there are other reasons why you might like that as a solution. They're very reliable. You can sometimes monitor them on an app. They maybe potentially have a better way of charging the batteries, and they can prioritize different batteries to, work through a block of them. So there are reasons why it might be a really good option on a massive production. But having said that, it is one of those things which is just going to be an additional cost. So all that to say, going back a few years, if you wanted to get into battery systems that were V-mount or gold mount or something like that, you would have to fork out an awful lot of money for the batteries themselves, which would be hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and also for the chargers, which again would be up to the thousands of pounds. Now you can go out and you can purchase a battery for a very, very reasonable price, and you can charge it with a charger which frankly you probably already have in your house. So to me, that is a massive benefit to these kind of batteries over the more traditional kind of batteries. Now, most batteries are moving over to being like this. So the cost saving that you're getting charging with USB-C into these is massive. Now, I said that that was perhaps a downside as well, and the downside is that everything is USB-C charging now. So I have gradually got to the position where these batteries are USB-C, and then my microphone's are USB-C, and perhaps some of my NPF batteries are also charged on USB-C, and some of the battery powered lights that I've got also charged with USB-C. So suddenly I've got maybe a dozen different devices that need to be charged using the same kind of solution. So where, yes, I probably do have chargers that can do it, to do that all with fast chargers, I don't have that many. So I'm now looking at maybe a GAN charging solution which can output like 500 or 600 watts of USB-C, so I can do all of the batteries and all of the lights and everything at once. That does sound like I'm saying it's a negative, but it's really just kind of the state of the world at the moment, and I'm gradually acclimatizing to it. It is still far, far cheaper than getting one of those dedicated vmount chargers. We're talking between 30 and 70 pounds in the UK to get a powerful GAN charger, which is perfectly reasonable, and it's more a workflow thing. If you're doing shoots and you're trying to turn around quickly for the next day, not having to manage the couple of fast USB-C charging bricks that you have is probably going to be worth investing in that GAN charger. Now, as you can see, just here on the Pyxis, I have actually, with the XLCS Designs cage that I've got on there, mounted a V-mount plate onto the back. Now, that's a bit weird because this would take a BPU battery and you could put that into the back and it would natively mount into the camera. So why do I go for a V-mount? And the simple answer is I kind of prefer to be on the V-mount solution because it just is a little bit better for what I'm trying to do here. These batteries are more powerful than the BPU batteries that I've got. They don't protrude quite as much. The higher capacity BPU batteries on the Pyxis do start to stick out an awful lot. Additionally, this has all of those extra ports, which means that I can power a transmitter or a monitor, or I can run something out to a phone. If I've got a phone on top for controlling lights or anything like that, I can power my phone with it. I can also use these in other scenarios. So say I've got the Pyxis on BPU batteries, I can use these to power lights, or I can use them to power another camera like the Pocket just here. Now, NEEWER actually did send out this additional device as well, which is like a V-mount adapter plate for cameras that don't have native V-mounts. So it's like a base plate and then an array at the back for you to be able to mount your V-mount onto. Now, obviously, On a camera like the Pocket just here, you want to still be able to see the screen, so you can flip that down out the way. It's got a rubberized section just here, so you're not going to scratch up anything on your camera. And then it does have a quick release on the bottom, and it is a standard sort of Arca Swiss style mount as well. So if you have a tripod with that, you could snap it directly in if that was going to work for your particular tripod solution. So it's really straightforward to use. Just snap it into place on the back, and then you're locked, and you know, you can go around shooting for hours and hours and hours, maybe even a whole day with a camera like this, just using that solution. Now, I haven't used this as much because I've tended to be working on the Pyxis, but this again is something else you can look at. If you have this setup, then you could build out your camera around it, and then when you want to do something a little bit more lightweight or run and gun, and perhaps you have an internal battery solution in the camera as well, you could take that off, and then you can go sort of naked with the camera just there, do the lightweight version, and then snap it back in. Now, I have actually used this on my C70, and it worked great for that. You know, just mount it onto the bottom, tending to have that either flip down if I'm using the screen flat on the back, or I can flip it up and take the screen on the C70 out to the side. That's a really neat way of keeping everything quite compact with it, and also it means then I can be on a single battery solution between, say, the Pyxis and the Pocket, or the Pyxis and the C70. However I tend to be using it, this just gives me that extra option as well. So this is the PS099E, and you know, in terms of what you get just there, it's a nice, well-machined, solid piece of metal engineering, and it'll just work with any standard vmount. So even if you're not using the newer solution, that is a really decent option if you're looking for a way of getting vmount power onto one of your other cameras. You do have this readout screen just here, and that is going to give you all of the information about what your battery is doing and how it's performing. Now that is actually interesting because on there you have each of the different outputs and how much power they're drawing. So you can see when you look at this on the back which of your outputs are using the most power, and then work out, you know, within the capacity of your battery just here, what you're going to be able to power, and if you're starting to draw more than the battery can actually give you, which item is drawing the most. So that information can be useful. For most people, it's not going to be particularly relevant, and it's not something that you're going to have to act on, but it is there if you want to see it. I've been getting really decent run times on the Pyxis with this. Depends a little bit how I'm using it, and whether I'm using the EVF, and whether I'm powering any extra accessories on there as well. But overall, I've been very happy with what I've been able to get from that. And then with the C70, this thing's an absolute beast. So if you're using a more power efficient camera, then 99 watt hours is going to really open up your eyes as to what a big battery can do for you. Now, the downsides of solutions like this are that they weigh a little bit more. So if you're used to a very compact camera with an internal battery solution where you carry separate batteries, say in your camera bag or in your pocket or something, then this is going to add weight and bulk to your setup. But the increase in run times and the simplifying of the workflow, so you don't have to constantly think about changing out batteries, is actually really beneficial. Like I say, I've used these across a number of different shoots, and some of those, it is just the case that I have this clamped onto a tripod and then run a D-tap out into the C70 or into the Pyxis. That keeps the weight of the camera package down a little bit, and also allows you to disconnect very quickly and just go with the internal battery if you've still got a small internal battery in there, just to do some quick shots and then connect back up on the tripod. So there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize this type of power solution. In terms of the aesthetics of the battery, I quite like it. You know, it's very minimal. I would say that I'm not, in general, and this is a bit of a trend at the moment, the kind of beautifying of batteries. The glossy screen areas, I'm not a fan of, because they do tend to pick up scratches. You know, it's not saying that it's poorly made, it just will pick up more scratches than something which is kind of more like the sides, if you like, where it's matte and a little bit more rugged. It's not going to pick up the same wear and tear. So it's a minor point because it doesn't really affect the performance of it, but I've seen quite a few different batteries on the market where they have this sort of glossy, trying to appeal to the masses sort of sheen to it, and in my experience working on sets, the batteries will take a little bit of a beating. Even if you're taking care of them, they tend to go in a case all together and they rub against each other, and they will just get a little bit scratched on that. And that's why I had that plastic cover on it still, so that I had a fresh version to show for this video. But yeah, that's a minor point, and apart from that, I quite like the aesthetics of it. Now there's a couple of nice ergonomic notes as well. If you look at the side just here, this is sort of ribbed along that section, which means that it's actually a little bit easier to pull on and pull off. It's a minor thing, but it does help when you are trying to work quickly, your hands are cold, or you're wearing gloves, you're outside. And that just shows me that they've thought about how this is actually going to be used and what people need in a very simple product to make it effective, basically. Now you might be watching this video and thinking, Dale, are you just trying to sell us newer vmount batteries because they offered you some tasty commission? I'm not asking for any commission on this. I'm not posting an affiliate link. In fact, I reached out to NEEWER and said, I'm interested in these. And the reason was, they're very competitively priced. And in 2025, something which I'm trying to focus on in the videos that I'm putting out on this channel is looking at products that do a really decent job, get people up and running, and aren't going to fail on them, and are going to allow them to work in a more professional fashion, I guess. Now, batteries are such a basic thing, but obviously you can spend an awful lot of money on them. So when you do spend money on a system like this, you want to know that you're getting enough for your money, and you want to know that you're getting something which isn't going to fail. And so far, of about 2-3 months of use now, these have not failed me once. There's no issues with them whatsoever. Over the years, I've used many, many different battery solutions from lots of reputable brands, and I think that when I recommend those products to people, they're often shocked at how much it'll actually cost them to get into that particular solution. So that was why this was particularly interesting, because for this price in the UK and this price in the US, you can buy one of these, which means that you're almost up to getting 2 or 3 of these for the price of some comparative products. So you'll be seeing this in my videos as we go through 2025. I will be looking at products which perhaps are smaller or cheaper than things that I might have traditionally used in the past, because I want to see how things compare, take my experience of working with the more expensive solutions, the bigger solutions, the heavier solutions, whatever the thing that I'm trying to cut back on is, and then exploring something like this. So I'm actively going out and talking to brands and asking to look at products like this to try and find things which are actually really worth investing in and hopefully aren't going to cost you too much money as well. If you've got any questions, drop them down below. More than happy to answer them. And if you want to check back on this video in 6 months time, 12 months time, and ask if they're still working, feel free. I will reply to the comments where I can and let you know if I have any issues. Thanks for watching.